Hey everyone, welcome to Witchy Vlogmas episode 4. So today I already went to the post office and I'm going to do my nails now. If you've watched my last video about nail polish, then you know that I've been wearing this for like 2 weeks or something. So it's definitely time to redo them. There's still some like black residue from the black nail polish I had. Today I decided to do dark red for the main color, and then I'm going to do little dots in yellow at the base. And the reason I'm doing this, once again, if you have watched my last video, my base coat is already done, by the way, so you don't have to be bored by me putting on a clear coat of nail polish. But if you've watched my other video about nail polish magic, then you know that I love using 2 different colors. I'll put the video below, by the way, in case you want to watch that and haven't yet. I love doing 2 different colors and sort of play with the magic of that. Let me fix that somehow. There, that looks a bit better. And if you've seen that video, you also know that I don't really care about any overpaint that I do. Anything that ends up going over the corners will just wash off eventually anyway. I want to do these 2 colors because I wanted to do something a little bit Christmassy, but I didn't want to go for red and green because that seemed a little boring to me. So I was wanting to do something that revolves more around protection and warmth and just safety in this cold, wintry time. I really feel for people who live in the southern hemisphere and who have like no connection to any of this right now and who are like, okay, it's summer here, but thanks for the input. This nail polish is quite liquid, so I'm kind of messing things up here, but that's okay. It'll all look fine in the end. So I chose yellow and red in order to create a very warm and very comforting feeling. If I had a lot of time and a lot of skill, and I think I'd be able to do it, but it would take a long time to sort of make them look like flames, because I feel like I sort of have the right shape, the right nail shape to make my nails look like flames, but it would literally take a long time. So I'm not going to do that right now. I'm kind of done making huge nail plans and then not going through with them. I used to do that a lot where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do a gradient nail this week. And then it's like, nah, I'd actually rather invest my time doing something else. So as you can see, I have holly lying right here in this shot because holly is actually, as I have mentioned multiple times now, my plant of the month. And I've been studying it a little bit and just, you know, watching YouTube videos about it, reading about it online, and it's quite interesting because as far as the OM tree oracle and, you know, the Druidic tradition, it is one of the holy trees, basically. And it has a lot to do with everlasting life and everlasting power and vigor, because obviously it's one of the few plants that is actually shiny in its everlastingness. Because if you look at something like, you know, pine tree or, wow, I'm really messing up this nail. If you look at something like pine tree, it has needles, sure, but it doesn't have shiny leaves. And ilex or holly is one of the few plants, I don't even know if there is another one, that has actual leaves that are always green. I mean, other than succulents, I guess. And that is why in magic and in spells, it is often used to create something more everlasting or long-lasting. And I think that's a very useful ingredient. It almost seems like, you know, if you're doing a spell and you just want to add some more ingredients to it because you feel like it and because you think it might boost your magic, it seems like a good go-to thing to kind of strengthen and make the spell last longer. At least that's what came to my mind. As you know, I don't really believe that magic is something that you can just take over from other people. If you want to create a spell, it's going to be very specific and private to you. So if Holly means something completely different to you, then you obviously wouldn't use it like I would use it in a spell. So the way I decide whether I want to use something in my spellcraft is basically I read about it, I see whether the things I read about it inspire me, and how I personally connect to that plant or that whatever ingredient it is, that crystal, and sort of see where the general meaning and my own meaning meet, what the common factors are, and then I will use it in my magic or not. I don't do spells very often, if I'm honest. It's a very, I don't want to call it a last resort, because I'm definitely not one of those people who's like, oh, you have to have tried absolutely everything and only then are you allowed to do a spell for it. That's not really how I see it. I think you can do a spell to support anything you do. But at the same time, I feel like most of the time I have a pretty good grip on everything without magic, if that makes any sense. So generally I try to just do things naturally, and if I feel like I need a lot of help or something, then I might cast a spell. But it's not the first thing I do in order to solve issues. I'm way too goal-oriented and solution-oriented, and I just, start right away with the most practical thing. And if anything, I would use magic for bigger projects. Anyways, I think this is dry enough for me to start putting on the yellow dots. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use this thing again. You know it from my last video where I did my nails. And I will just put a big glob of yellow nail polish on there. Yellow nail polish, I will have you know, is very problematic because it's just one of those colors that kind of doesn't have good coverage, as you can already see here. So I might have to do this a few times to actually get an effect. Yeah, I think I'm just going to double up on this. I'm going to do all the nails and then do them again. Because otherwise, whoops, it's not going to look like anything probably. All right, I'm going to let it dry a little bit and then I'll do a second round. Even though I kind of like this look too, because it's like the red is kind of shimmering through, so it looks almost golden. So yeah, as I was saying, I do magic mostly for big purposes. If I do something magical, I'm usually going to be using runes or crystals or herbs or symbols that mean something to me, and just simply either draw them on a piece of paper or draw them on my skin and use them in that way, possibly burn them or anything like that. So it's mostly small things. I'm not really the type who casts a circle for 15 minutes every week and then does a huge ritual. I admire people who can do that as regularly as they do, but it's just not really part of my nature, I suppose. And I know that a lot of people who especially are starting in witchcraft, you get insecure about these things, you sort of think like, am I even a witch if I don't do a monthly ritual? There's a lot of things that people it just doesn't work in their practice. And I think it's good to recognize that and not put too much pressure on yourself. I gotta renew this, it's getting too goopy. Yeah, not putting too much pressure on yourself to meet other people's expectations or some ideal. But that being said, I do think there is very great merit to sometimes forcing yourself to do these things and sort of just doing them, because getting stuck in a rut, especially in a spiritual rut, is very easy, for me at least, because I don't have a coven or anything like that who would keep me in line. It's just me, and it's up to me to get my spiritual practice going and to keep it going in an effective and inspiring way. And maybe you feel the same. provided you don't have a coven or a group or something. And I feel like that just sort of makes it has its ups and its downsides, let's put it like that. I'd rather do my own thing rather than doing something that other people tell me, but inspiration and community are definitely two things that are very, or can be very inspiring and very motivating, obviously. And I have to say, I've never before found something in my life that fulfills me as much as witchcraft and spirituality and learning about occultism does right now. Because usually I'd always need someone to kind of motivate me or someone to do these things with. But as far as this is concerned, I can motivate myself because I really feel a connection to it. I don't know where I'm going with this ramble. Maybe you can identify with some of it. I'd love to hear about your practice, whether you have a coven, whether you work alone. I don't really like labels a lot. If I had to label myself, I suppose I would say I'm a solitary eclectic witch, which already feels so mainstream because everybody is that basically, which is fine, you know, and that's why I don't like labels, because suddenly you group yourself in and people have certain assumptions about you and your practice that might not be accurate at all. But sometimes it's necessary to sort of explain what we do to people because, you know, for all I know, anyone who's watching me could think that I'm a Gardnerian witch who's part of a coven, and I'm not. But, you know, people have assumptions sometimes. Anyway, I think I'm going to do the top coat now. I hope that the yellow is dry enough for me to do that. I'm really trying not to put too much on my plate. There's a lot of stuff going on around Christmas, and I'm kind of trying to pull myself out of it and only see the most important people. Yeah, I think we have to be very sparing with our time, or at least I do in December, because I need a lot of decompression time, a lot of alone time, a lot of time in which I not only chill, but also take care of my own projects and my own aspirations. And finding that time besides my day job can be very challenging. So I need to look out for myself and not get stuck in a rut where I just, you know, flop in front of the TV or something. I really need to kind of keep the tension going, but at the same time not have too much tension, if you know what I mean. Though I'm not obsessed with it, I do have a lot of decompression time. It's not like I go nonstop like some other people do. That's just not in my nature as well. I definitely take breaks all the time, but sometimes I tend to place a lot of expectations on myself, I'll be honest. God, this is like just me ranting about me. It's kind of weird. What I also love about holly, though, I forgot to mention, is that its leaves, not these ones so much, but usually they are very spiky and prickly, so they kind of look like crowns. So it goes along with the whole idea that it is the king plant that sort of rules Yule time, whereas the oak is the tree that rules summertime. So the top coat is on now. They only have to dry. I kind of like it, yeah. It's not as intensely yellow as I would have liked for it to be, but at the same time, I feel like the whole red and gold kind of works. So whenever I look at these nails, I will feel warm, hopefully, and feel comforted and safe in this cold, cold winter. God, look at how long this one is. Like, that one is the shit.